She thought the invitation was a chance to heal, but it was a trap. A poor ex-wife forced to walk into her billionaire husband's wedding, wearing the very dress she married him in. Guests whisper, cameras flash, until a shocking twist turns the entire ceremony upside down. Secrets about hidden millions, betrayal, and a baby that isn't his explode in front of everyone. You won't believe how this story ends. Stay with me until the last second, because the revenge is sweeter than you can imagine. And if you love stories of betrayal and justice served, make sure to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, share it with a friend who needs the drama, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss the next twist. Sarah Mitchell pressed her forehead against the cold window of the Queen's studio apartment, watching rain streak down the glass like tears she no longer had energy to cry. Below, the street hummed with evening traffic, people rushing home to families, to warmth, to lives that made sense. Her twin boys, 8-year-old Jackson and Mason, sat at the kitchen table behind her, sharing a single packet of instant noodles she had split between them. "Mom, can we go to basketball camp this summer?" Mason asked, his voice hopeful despite everything. Sarah's chest tightened. She turned, forcing a smile that felt like shattered glass in her throat. "We'll see, baby. Maybe next year." The boys exchanged glances. They had learned not to push when she said maybe next year. Maybe next year meant no, but with love attached to soften the blow. 3 jobs. She worked 3 jobs now. Morning shift at a diner, afternoon cleaning offices, weekend cashier work at a pharmacy where she watched people buy insulin she could barely afford for herself. Her fingers were cracked from cleaning chemicals. Her back screamed from standing 14-hour days. And still, it was never enough. Not for basketball camp, not for new shoes when theirs wore through, not for the life they deserved. The mail slot rattled. Sarah almost ignored it, expecting another bill, another reminder of how far she had fallen. But Jackson ran to grab the envelope, his eyes widening at the gold embossed card inside. "Mom, this looks fancy," he said, holding it up like treasure. Sarah took the invitation with trembling hands. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind that whispered money with every fiber. Her name was written in perfect calligraphy across the front. She opened it slowly, already knowing who it was from before she read the words. "David Mitchell and Victoria Sterling request the honor of your presence at their wedding celebration. The Hamptons. $2 million affair. Black tie required." But it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made her stomach turn. "Come see what you gave up, David." She sank into the worn couch, the invitation falling to her lap. 2 years since the divorce. 2 years since David had thrown her out while she was 7 months pregnant with twins, claiming she was dragging him down, that she was nothing without him. 2 years of fighting for custody, of watching him parade his new life on social media while she rationed insulin and skipped meals so her boys could eat. "Is it from Dad?" Mason asked quietly. Sarah looked at her son, seeing David's jawline in his face, but none of his cruelty in his eyes. "Yes, baby, it's from your father." "Are we going to see him?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had long since burned everything to ash. Sarah stared at the invitation, at those 5 words that dripped with malice. Come see what you gave up. He wanted to humiliate her. That was the only reason for this invitation. David Mitchell, with his hedge fund millions and his Instagram influencer fiancé, wanted her to walk into his golden world so everyone could see how far she had fallen. He wanted to break her completely. Sarah stood, walking to her laptop, an ancient machine that wheezed when she opened it. She had been doing her taxes earlier, trying to squeeze every deduction from her meager income, when she had noticed something. A pattern in David's old financial records from their marriage, cryptocurrency transactions he had hidden, income he had never reported. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. She could ignore the invitation, stay in her small, safe world of struggle and survival. Or she could go to that wedding and find the evidence she needed to prove what he had stolen from her, from their children. The IRS had a whistleblower program. She had researched it extensively. If she could prove David's tax fraud, she could receive up to 30% of what the government recovered. It would change everything for her boys. But it would mean walking into that ballroom, facing the man who had destroyed her life, enduring whatever humiliation he had planned. She looked back at Jackson and Mason, at their hopeful faces, at the basketball camp brochure hidden under old magazines because Mason thought she had not seen him looking at it late at night. "Mom," Jackson said, "you okay?" Sarah picked up the invitation again. "Boys, how would you like to take a trip to the Hamptons?" 3 weeks before the wedding, Sarah stood outside the gleaming Manhattan office building, her reflection in the glass doors showing a woman she barely recognized. Exhausted, worn, defeated. She had taken an extra shift to afford the subway fare here to meet with Jerry Paulson, her divorce lawyer who had failed her so spectacularly 2 years ago. "Sarah, I'm telling you, don't go," Jerry said, not even looking up from his paperwork as she entered his office. "Whatever David is planning, it's not worth it." Sarah sat down, her body aching from her morning shift. "He owes millions in taxes, Jerry. I found the crypto accounts." That got his attention. Jerry's eyes snapped up, but his expression remained skeptical. "The statute of limitations has passed on the divorce settlement. You can't relitigate the financial disclosure." "I'm not talking about the divorce," Sarah said. "I'm talking about the IRS. I filed a whistleblower claim." "They called me yesterday." Jerry leaned back, his chair creaking. Sarah, you realize what you're suggesting? Going after David Mitchell. He has connections, lawyers, resources you can't imagine. He also has hidden income he never reported," Sarah said. 20 million at least, probably more." Jerry was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a fresh legal pad. "There's something else you should know. Victoria's prenup with David requires him to prove you're financially incompetent. The wedding, this invitation, it's all part of building that case." Sarah's blood ran cold. "He's going to use it against me in the custody battle. Every moment, every word, every gesture will be documented," Jerry confirmed. "If you show up looking poor, desperate, he wins. If you don't show up, he spins it as you abandoning your children for spite." Sarah stood, her legs shaky. "Then I need to look the part." As she left Jerry's office, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Sarah?" The voice was warm, familiar, a ghost from her past. "It's Marcus Blake." Her breath caught. Marcus. Her former business partner, the man she had almost married before David swept into her life with his promises and charm. The man whose investment had been lost when her company collapsed. "Marcus, how did you get my number?" "I heard about the invitation," he said. "Sarah, I'm so sorry about everything. Can we meet, please? I want to help." She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect herself from any more pain, but she was drowning, and Marcus was offering a lifeline. "Okay," she whispered. They met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, the kind of place that served $5 lattes Sarah could not afford. Marcus paid, of course. He looked good, successful, his suit tailored and his watch expensive. Everything she was not anymore. "You look tired," he said gently. Sarah almost laughed. Tired was a universe away from what she was. "It's been a long 2 years." "I know David destroyed your company," Marcus said. "I lost $3 million when it went under." Sarah flinched. "Marcus, I'm sorry. I tried everything to save it." "It wasn't your fault," he said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. "It was David's. I know that now." His touch was warm, familiar. For a moment, she remembered what it felt like to be cared for, to be seen as more than a failure. "Let me help you," Marcus continued. "My friend Charlotte is a designer. She'll dress you for the wedding. You'll walk in there like a queen, not a victim." "I can't afford—" "My treat," Marcus interrupted. "Please, Sarah, let me do this. You deserve to hold your head high." Sarah felt tears threatening. After 2 years of fighting alone, someone was finally offering help. "Weeba," she whispered. Marcus squeezed her hand. "Because I never stopped caring about you. Because David took everything from both of us. And because you deserve better than what he did to you." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe that someone, anyone, was on her side. "Okay," she said. "Thank you." Marcus smiled, and for the first time in 2 years, Sarah felt something that might have been hope. She did not see the text he sent after she left. Did not see the recipient's name, David Mitchell. Did not see the message. She took the bait. Everything is going according to plan. The morning of the preparation began with Sarah injecting her last unit of insulin, the vial empty, her hands shaking as she calculated how many hours she had before her blood sugar would spike beyond control. $20 in her account. Payday was 3 days away. The pharmacy wanted $140 for a new vial. "Mom, are you okay?" Jackson asked, watching her from the doorway. Sarah smiled, hiding the empty vial. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just getting ready for tonight." Tonight, David's wedding. The thought made her stomach churn, but the IRS agent's words echoed in her mind from their secret phone call yesterday. "We need him on record, Mrs. Mitchell. If he brags about the crypto, if he admits to hiding assets, we can move forward." Marcus picked her up at noon in a black BMW, the leather seats soft beneath her worn clothing. "Charlotte's studio is in Soho," he asked. "She's excited to meet you." Sarah watched Queens fade into Manhattan, worlds shifting with each mile. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. I've been in touch with the IRS about David's hidden assets." Marcus glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Smart. He deserves everything coming to him. The studio was a temple of fashion, mannequins draped in silk and in satin, mirrors reflecting infinite possibilities. Charlotte air-kissed Sarah's cheeks, her smile bright and professional. "Marcus told me everything," Charlotte gushed. "We're going to make you absolutely stunning. That ex-husband won't know what hit him." Sarah tried on dress after dress, each one more beautiful than anything she had worn in years. Charlotte selected a midnight blue gown that hugged her figure, hiding the weight she had lost from stress and skipped meals. "Perfect," Charlotte declared. "You look like $1,000,000. Sarah was changing back into her regular clothes when she heard Charlotte on the phone in the next room. The walls were thin, Charlotte's voice clear. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell, she's here now." A pause. "The midnight blue, just as you requested. Oh, she looks beautiful. The humiliation will be so much sweeter when she realizes you paid for everything." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself, her chest tight, her breathing shallow. David had orchestrated this. Marcus had betrayed her. Again. She grabbed her purse, ready to run, when Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, you okay?" She wanted to scream, to rage, to ask how he could do this to her. But she forced herself to remain calm. If they were playing games, she could play too. "Just nervous," she said. Marcus pulled her into a hug. "Don't be. I'll be right there with you." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling his arms around her, remembering when those arms had meant safety. Now they were just another cage. Outside the studio, her phone buzzed. 3 messages in rapid succession. First, her car had been repossessed. The loan had been sold to a collection agency. David's name was buried in the paperwork, but she recognized his hand. Second, an eviction notice. Her landlord had sold the building. New owners wanted her out in 30 days. Third, her mother panicking. "Sarah, there are lawyers here. They say David is filing for emergency custody. They say you've been neglecting the boys." Sarah stood on the sidewalk, the city spinning around her, her chest tight, her vision blurring. No insulin, no car, no home, no children. She stumbled into a coffee shop bathroom, collapsing against the sink, her body shaking. In the mirror, she saw Charlotte's makeup, perfect and pristine, hiding the destruction underneath. "Ma'am?" A voice behind her. "You okay?" She turned to see a janitor, an older black man with kind eyes. He looked familiar. "Tommy?" she whispered. "Tommy Washington?" He nodded slowly. "Ms. Mitchell, I heard about what Mr. Mitchell did to you." Tommy had worked at her startup, one of 40 employees left jobless when David orchestrated its collapse. "He came by the office after you were gone," Tommy said quietly, laughing about how he destroyed you. "Said you were too weak to run a company anyway." Sarah's knees buckled. Tommy caught her, helped her to a chair. "Ms. Mitchell, you were the only boss who ever treated me with respect. You gave me health insurance so my wife could get her cancer treatment. I won't forget that." Sarah wiped her eyes, her makeup smearing. "Tommy, I'm so sorry about the company." "Wasn't your fault," he said firmly. "That man is evil, pure evil." The bathroom door opened. Marcus stood there, concern painted on his face. "Sarah, we need to go." Tommy squeezed her shoulder and whispered, "Be strong, Miss Mitchell. Truth always finds a way." As Marcus led her back to the car, Sarah felt something harden inside her chest. They all thought she was broken, defeated, ready to be humiliated. They did not know about the wire the IRS had given her, hidden in her purse. They did not know that every word tonight would be recorded. Let them think she was weak. Let them believe they had won. Tonight, Sarah Mitchell was going to war. The Hamptons stretched before them like a golden dream turned nightmare. Each mansion a monument to wealth Sarah would never touch. Marcus drove in silence, occasionally glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Sarah sat in the back, the midnight blue gown Charlotte had selected weighing on her like chains. Almost there, Marcus said softly. You ready? Sarah touched her purse, feeling the small recording device the IRS had given her hidden in the lining. As ready as I'll ever be. The Bradford estate appeared like something from a fairy tale. White columns and flowering gardens. A red carpet leading to doors that might as well have been the gates of hell. Photographers clustered at the entrance, their cameras hungry for scandal and spectacle. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her mother. The boys keep asking where you are. These lawyers won't leave. Sarah, I'm scared. Her hands trembled as she typed back. Everything will be okay. Tell them I love them. Marcus pulled up to the valet. Sarah, wait. Let me get your door. She watched him circle the car, playing the perfect gentleman. The photographers noticed them immediately, whispers rippling through the crowd. Is that David Mitchell's ex-wife? She's with Marcus Blake. Didn't he lose millions when her company went under? Marcus opened her door, offering his hand. Sarah took it, stepping out into a wall of flashing lights. She kept her chin up, her spine straight, even as she heard the mocking whispers. Look at her dress. It's beautiful. David must have paid for it. God, how humiliating. They walked the red carpet like condemned prisoners approaching the scaffold. At the doors, security waited with metal detectors and bag checks. Sarah's heart hammered. If they found the wire. Purse, please, the guard said. Sarah handed it over, holding her breath. The guard glanced inside, then froze. He pulled out her insulin kit, holding it up. No medical supplies without prior authorization, he said loudly, ensuring everyone nearby heard. Please, Sarah whispered. I'm diabetic. I need that. The guard shrugged. Rules are rules. You can collect it when you leave. Marcus stepped forward. Come on, man. She needs her medication. Mr. Mitchell's orders were very specific, the guards said. Come on. No exceptions. Sarah felt the trap closing. David knew about her diabetes. He was counting on her blood sugar spiking, making her weak, vulnerable, easy to humiliate. It's fine, she said, though it was anything but fine. She had maybe 3 hours before the symptoms would start, 4 before it became dangerous. They entered the ballroom and Sarah's breath caught. It was magnificent and terrible. Crystal chandeliers casting rainbow light across marble floors, orchids and roses creating a garden of excess. 500 guests mingled with champagne flutes, their jewelry worth more than Sarah would earn in a lifetime. And there, at the center of it all, stood David. He had not changed much in 2 years. Same perfect hair, same predator's smile, same eyes that could strip a person down to nothing. Beside him stood Victoria Sterling, her Instagram perfect beauty wrapped in a dress that cost more than Sarah's annual income. David saw her immediately. His smile widened. Sarah, he called out, his voice carrying across the room. You came. Every head turned, every conversation stopped. 500 pairs of eyes fixed on Sarah as David approached, Victoria gliding beside him like a shark scenting blood. You look, David paused, letting his eyes travel over her dress, her face, her everything. Expensive. Did you rob a bank? Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Marcus helped me, Sarah said quietly. David's eyes flicked to Marcus, something passing between them that made Sarah's stomach turn. How generous of him. Tell me, Marcus, does she know? Know what? Sarah asked. David's smile was poison. That Marcus here is my newest business partner. We've been working together for what, 6 months now? The room spun. Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing the truth in his guilty expression. Sarah, I can't explain, Marcus started. Explain what? David interrupted. That you came to me after losing everything in her failed company? That you wanted revenge as much as profit? That everything tonight, the dress, The invitation, even you being here, was orchestrated by us? Sarah felt herself fragmenting, breaking apart piece by piece. But she forced herself to remain standing, to keep breathing, to remember the wire recording every word. "Why me?" she whispered to Marcus. Marcus's mask finally slipped. "You chose him over me, Sarah. And then your company failed and took my fortune with it. I lost everything because of you." "The company failed because David sabotaged it," Sarah said. "The company failed because you were weak," Marcus spat. "Just like David said." Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, this is even better than we planned. Should we tell her the rest, darling?" David pulled Victoria close, his hand on her barely visible baby bump. "My beautiful bride is pregnant. We're going to have the family I always wanted, with a woman who's actually worthy of the Mitchell name." Sarah's legs trembled, but she stayed upright. Around her, guests whispered and snickered, their judgment thick as smoke. "Congratulations," Sarah said, her voice steady despite everything. David's eyes narrowed. He had expected tears, begging, collapse, not this quiet dignity. "Security," he called. "Bring the boys in." Sarah's heart stopped. "What?" The side doors opened. Jackson and Mason walked in, confused and frightened, each held by a security guard. They were dressed in little suits, their faces bright with hope that dimmed when they saw the crowd, the cameras, their mother standing alone in the center of it all. "Mommy?" Mason called out. "I thought the boys should see this," David announced to the crowd. "They should understand what kind of mother they have. Weak, poor, pathetic." That was when Sarah understood. This was not just about humiliation. This was about destroying her completely, taking her children, erasing her from existence. But David had made one mistake. He had given her everything she needed, all of it recorded, all of it evidence. The storm was coming, and David Mitchell had no idea he was standing directly in its path. The ballroom fell silent as Jackson and Mason stood in the doorway, their small faces crumpled with confusion. They looked so young in their little suits, dwarfed by the security guards flanking them. Sarah's heart shattered and reformed with each breath, maternal rage warring with the need to stay calm, to play this game until the bitter end. "Boys," David said, his voice carrying across the marble expanse, "come here. Stand with your father." Mason looked at Sarah, his eyes questioning. She nodded, though it killed her to do so. The twins walked slowly across the ballroom, 500 guests watching their every step. "Ladies and gentlemen," David announced, raising his champagne glass. "Tonight isn't just about celebrating my marriage to Victoria. It's about new beginnings, about leaving the past where it belongs." A screen descended from the ceiling behind him. Sarah's stomach dropped as she recognized the first image. Her entering a food bank, head down, carrying empty bags. "You see," David continued, "some people rise to challenges. Others?" The image changed. Sarah in her janitor's uniform, mopping an office floor at 2 in the morning. Others just weren't meant for success. The crowd murmured, some sympathetic, most cruel. Victoria smiled, her hand on her belly, the picture of fertile prosperity. More images flashed. Sarah at the welfare office. Sarah selling her engagement ring at a pawn shop. Sarah crying in her car after another failed job interview. "Where did you get these?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. "Private investigators are thorough," David said. "I needed to document everything for the custody case. Judges need to know what kind of environment my children are living in." Marcus stepped away from Sarah, aligning himself with David. "I provided some footage too," he said, "from when I visited her apartment. Images of Sarah's cramped studio filled the screen, the boy's mattress on the floor, the empty refrigerator." "That was taken out of context," Sarah said. "Context?" David laughed. "The context is failure, Sarah. You failed as a wife, as a business owner, and as a mother." "Daddy, stop," Jackson said quietly. David ignored him. "But the best part, the absolute best part, is this." The screen changed to security footage from their old home. Date stamp, 3 years ago. Sarah, heavily pregnant, being wheeled into an ambulance. "While my ex-wife was in the hospital giving birth to the twins," the image split screened. The other half showed David entering their home with a woman Sarah recognized as his secretary. "You were having an affair," Sarah said, loud enough for everyone to hear. David's smile never wavered. "I was moving on from a marriage that was already dead. You were too blind to see it. I was giving birth to your children." "Children I never wanted," David shot back. "You got pregnant on purpose, thinking it would save us. It just accelerated the inevitable." Mason started crying. Jackson put his arm around his brother, both boys shrinking into themselves. "Enough," Sarah said. "You've made your point." "Have I?" David asked. "Because there's more." Victoria stepped forward, her voice sweet as arsenic. "We wanted to share our joy with everyone. Our baby will be born into a proper family, with parents who actually want him." "Or her," someone called out. Victoria's smile flickered. She glanced at someone in the crowd, then back at David. "Actually, we know it's a boy. Don't we, Tyler?" Tyler Anderson, David's business partner and best man, stepped in from behind a column. His expression was strange, almost guilty. "Tell them, Tyler," Victoria said, her voice harder now. "Tell them what?" David asked, confusion cracking his confident facade. Victoria's smile turned predatory. "That this baby isn't yours, darling." The ballroom erupted. David's face went white, then red, then purple with rage. "What? Did you really think I'd tie myself to you permanently?" Victoria asked. "You're going to prison, David. The FBI contacted me last week about your finances, but spousal privilege doesn't apply if we're divorced." She pulled papers from her clutch. "My lawyer will be serving you properly on Monday, but consider this your notice." David lunged for her, but Tyler stepped between them. "The baby's mine, David. Has been from the start." Sarah watched it all unfold, feeling like she was floating above her body. The recording device in her purse was capturing everything, every confession, every piece of evidence the IRS would need. But then her vision blurred. Her blood sugar was crashing. She could feel it in the trembling of her hands, the cold sweat on her neck. Without insulin, without food to balance it, she was running out of time. "Mommy?" Mason had broken free from the crowd, running to her and, "Mommy, are you okay?" Sarah dropped to her knees, pulling both boys into her arms. "I'm okay, baby. I'm okay." But she was not okay. The room was spinning. She could hear David and Victoria screaming at each other, Tyler trying to maintain peace, the crowd exploding with gossip and speculation. And then, through the chaos, a voice she had been waiting for. "IRS criminal investigation. Nobody move." Federal agents flooded the ballroom like water breaking through a dam. Sarah remained on her knees, holding her boys, the world tilting dangerously as her blood sugar crashed. Through her blurred vision, she saw guests scrambling, phones out, recording everything. The lead agent, a woman with steel gray hair and an expression that could freeze hell, walked straight to David. "Mr. Mitchell, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of tax evasion, money laundering, and wire fraud." David's face contorted. "This is a mistake. I want my lawyer." "You'll have plenty of time to call them," the agent said. She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Blake, you're also under arrest for insider trading and conspiracy to commit fraud." Marcus went pale. "What? No, I was just helping Mr. Mitchell hide $20 million in cryptocurrency while shorting your own company's stock before its collapse." The agent smiled coldly. "We have the emails, Mr. Blake, all of them." Sarah tried to stand but stumbled. Jackson caught her arm. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "She needs insulin," someone said. Sarah looked up to see Tommy Washington pushing through the crowd, her medical kit in his hands. "I grabbed it from security when I saw the feds arriving." "Tommy?" she whispered. "How?" He knelt beside her, helping her with the injection. "I've been working with the IRS too, Ms. Mitchell. Documented everything at the office. When they contacted me about testifying, I told them about tonight." David was struggling against the handcuffs now. "This is her doing. She set me up." The lead agent pulled out a familiar device from an evidence bag. Sarah's wire. "Actually, Mr. Mitchell, she's been assisting us for months. Every threat you made, every confession about hiding assets, every attempt to intimidate her, it's all recorded." "Including," Sarah said, her strength returning as the insulin worked, "your admission that you never wanted our children." That's going to play beautifully in family court. Victoria tried to slip toward the exit, but another agent blocked her path. Miss Sterling, we need to discuss your knowledge of Mr. Mitchell's financial crimes. I had no idea, Victoria said quickly. Too quickly. Tyler Anderson laughed bitterly. No idea? You helped him move money through your influencer accounts. I have the receipts. Victoria turned on him, vicious. You said you loved me. I loved your connection to his money, Tyler replied. But that's gone now, isn't it? Judge Patricia Hawkins, who had been trying to blend into the crowd, was surrounded by agents. Your Honor, you're under arrest for accepting bribes in multiple custody cases, including Mitchell versus Mitchell. Sarah stood slowly, her boys pressed against her sides. The ballroom was chaos, but she felt perfectly calm. 2 years of pain, of struggle, of humiliation, and it all led to this moment. David was dragged past her, his perfect hair messed, his tuxedo wrinkled, his empire in ashes. He stopped, straining against the agent's grip. You were nothing without me, he snarled. Sarah looked him in the eyes, really looked at him for the first time in years. He seemed smaller somehow, diminished, like a monster revealed to be just a man. I was nothing with you, she said clearly. That's the difference. This isn't over, David shouted as they pulled him away. I'll destroy you. The lead agent paused at the door. Mr. Mitchell, with what we have on you, you'll be lucky to get out before your children graduate college. As David was shoved into the police car outside, Victoria made one last desperate play. She grabbed a microphone from the DJ stand. I'm pregnant, she announced. You can't arrest a pregnant woman. The agent beside her sighed. Ma'am, that's not how the law works. Tyler stepped forward. And for the record, everyone, that baby isn't David's. It's mine. We've been together since before their engagement. The crowd gasped. Someone actually applauded. Victoria dropped the microphone, her perfect facade finally cracking completely. Marcus was the last to be let out. He stopped near Sarah, his eyes pleading. Sarah, I loved you once. You have to know that. Sarah felt nothing but pity. You loved the idea of me, Marcus. But when I chose someone else, when I failed, that love turned to poison. That's not love. That's ownership. He hung his head as they took him away. The ballroom emptied slowly, guests fleeing the scene of the scandal, no doubt racing to be the first to post on social media. Sarah stood in the wreckage of David's perfect wedding, her boy's hands in hers. Mommy, Mason said, are we safe now? Sarah knelt, looking both her boys in the eyes. Yes, baby, we're finally safe. Jackson, always the more serious twin, asked, what happens now? Sarah thought about the IRS whistleblower reward that would come, the 30% of recovered taxes that would change their lives. She thought about the custody battle that would end in her favor now that David was heading to federal prison. She thought about the company she would rebuild, the life she would create. Now she said, we go home, our real home. As they walked toward the exit, Tommy Washington fell into step beside them. Miss Mitchell, I wanted you to know, a bunch of us from the old company, we're ready whenever you want to start again. We believe in you. Sarah felt tears, but for the first time in years, they were tears of hope. Thank you, Tommy, for everything. Outside, the Hamptons' night was clear and full of stars. Sarah looked up, breathing deeply, free for the first time in so long, she had forgotten what it felt like. Her phone buzzed. The IRS agent. Preliminary estimate puts your whistleblower reward at $4.5 million. Congratulations, Mrs. Mitchell. Sarah deleted the message. The money mattered, but not as much as this moment, standing under the stars with her boys, finally free from the shadow of David Mitchell. 6 months after the wedding that became a crime scene, Sarah Mitchell sat in federal court, her spine straight, her voice clear. The courtroom was packed with media, spectators, and the ghosts of her former life. On the defendant's side, David sat in a gray suit that hung loose on his frame, the months in custody having carved away his golden boy veneer. State your name for the record, the prosecutor said. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell, can you describe your financial situation when you received the wedding invitation? Sarah looked directly at David. He tried to hold her gaze but looked away first. I was working 3 jobs to support my twin sons, morning shifts at a diner, afternoon cleaning offices. weekend pharmacy work. My diabetic medication cost more than I could afford. We were facing eviction. And Mr. Mitchell knew about your situation? He orchestrated it, Sarah said. He bought my debt, influenced my landlord, sabotaged every job opportunity that paid decent wages. David's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled. The evidence was already in record. Tell us about the cryptocurrency, the prosecutor continued. Sarah pulled out a folder of printed transactions she had discovered. During our marriage, David created multiple crypto wallets under shell companies. He moved approximately $23 million through these accounts without reporting it to the IRS. How did you discover this? While doing my taxes, I found old passwords saved on our shared cloud account. David forgot to remove my access when he threw me out. The crowd murmured. David's jaw clenched. Mrs. Mitchell, why did you attend the wedding despite knowing it was a trap? Sarah's voice strengthened. Because my children deserve better than a father who could abandon them without consequence. Because the IRS needed evidence. And because I was tired of running from a man who thought he owned my failure. Marcus Blake was brought in next, shackled, broken. His testimony was a confession wrapped in self-pity. David promised me revenge, he admitted. Sarah chose him over me years ago. Then her company collapsed and took my investment with it. When David approached me with a plan to humiliate her, I thought it was justice. What was your role? The prosecutor asked. I pretended to care, got close to her again, fed information to David, helped orchestrate the wedding ambush. Mr. Blake, did you know about the tax evasion? Marcus nodded. David brought me in as a partner to help hide more assets. He said the government would never catch us. From the gallery, someone laughed. It might have been Victoria, but Sarah did not turn to look. The defense tried to paint Sarah as vindictive, jealous, a woman scorned seeking revenge. David's lawyer, a shark in Armani, stood close enough that Sarah could smell his expensive cologne. Isn't it true you were angry about the divorce? I was devastated, Sarah admitted, but not angry. Anger requires energy I didn't have while trying to keep my children fed. You went to that wedding to destroy my client's happiness. Sarah almost laughed. Your client invited me specifically to destroy mine. I just brought federal agents instead of tears. You secretly recorded him without consent. Under federal law and with IRS authorization, all recordings were legal. The lawyer tried another angle. You're receiving millions from this testimony, aren't you? I'll receive the standard whistleblower percentage of recovered taxes. Money that should have gone to schools, hospitals, infrastructure. Money your client stole from every American citizen. The judge had to gavel for order as the gallery erupted. Victoria's testimony was pure theater. 8 months pregnant now, she played the victim despite evidence of her involvement. David told me the money was from investments, she claimed, one hand on her belly. Tyler Anderson, testifying with immunity, destroyed her act in minutes. Victoria knew everything. She helped launder money through sponsorship deals. Check her Instagram accounts. The FBI has it all documented. When David finally took the stand, Sarah saw what 2 years of cruelty had cost him. His hands shook. His voice cracked. The golden boy who had once commanded rooms could barely command his own narrative. Sarah was a failed entrepreneur who trapped me with pregnancy, he said. The evidence shows you were having affairs throughout the marriage, the prosecutor countered. She couldn't handle my success. You mean the success built on tax evasion and fraud? David's composure cracked. She was nothing, a nobody from nowhere. I made her. And then you tried to destroy her. She destroyed herself. The prosecutor pulled up the wedding footage, David's own words echoing through the courtroom. Children I never wanted. Failed as a wife, as a business owner, and as a mother. Some people just weren't meant for success. Mr. Mitchell, is that you speaking? David said nothing. Mr. Mitchell, did you tell your 8-year-old sons their mother was, and I quote, weak, poor, and pathetic? Still nothing. The prosecutor turned to the judge. No further questions. As Sarah left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. She held Jackson and Mason's hands, Tommy Washington and other former employees flanking them protectively. Mrs. Mitchell, how does it feel to see justice served? Sarah paused on the courthouse steps. Justice isn't revenge, it's accountability. My children will grow up knowing that truth matters more than wealth, that integrity matters more than power. What's next for you? Sarah smiled, the first real smile she had worn in years. I'm rebuilding my company, but this time I'm hiring people who've been broken by systems that were supposed to protect them. Single mothers, whistleblowers, anyone who's been told they're nothing. What will you call it? Sarah looked at her boys, then at the ski, Phoenix Technologies, because we're all rising from ashes. As they walked away, Sarah's phone rang. The IRS. Mrs. Mitchell, the first installment of your whistleblower reward has been processed. 4.5 million has been deposited into your account. Sarah thanked them and hung up. Money that would secure her children's future, rebuild her company, restore her life. But as she looked at Jackson and Mason, she knew the real reward was simpler. They were free. 1 year after the trial, Sarah stood in front of a building she had once called home professionally, the place where her first dream had died. Now it bore a new sign, Phoenix Technologies, the letters gleaming in the morning sun. Behind her, 43 employees gathered for the ribbon cutting, every one of them a survivor of their own story. Mom, you ready? Jackson asked, holding the giant scissors with Mason. Sarah nodded, tears threatening. Let's do this together. The ribbon fell away to applause and cheers. Tommy Washington popped champagne, careful to avoid spraying the photographers present. The media had followed Sarah's story obsessively since the trial, turning her from victim to symbol. Inside, the office buzzed with energy. Sarah had used $2 million of her whistleblower reward to renovate and launch. The rest went into trust funds for the boys and an emergency fund she prayed she would never need. Mrs. Mitchell, her assistant, called out. Jennifer was a widow with 3 kids, abandoned by her husband's family after his death. You have a visitor. Sarah turned to find Charlotte, the designer who had dressed her for the wedding under David's orders. Charlotte looked smaller somehow, diminished. I know I don't deserve your time, Charlotte began. Sarah led her to a private office. You were doing it, Jim. David paid you. I knew what he was planning. I could have warned you. But you didn't. Charlotte pulled out a check. This is every penny he paid me, plus interest. I want to invest it in Phoenix. Sarah studied the woman who had been part of her humiliation. Why? Because I watched you stand in my studio, hearing me betray you, and you didn't run. You didn't break. You walked into that wedding knowing it was a trap, and you survived it. Charlotte's voice cracked. I want to be part of something that creates strength instead of destroying it. Sarah took the check. We're launching a program for women re-entering the workforce after divorce. You can run it. Charlotte's eyes widened. Really? Everyone deserves a second chance, even those who are part of the problem. As Charlotte left, Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. You have a collect call from Federal Parathon. Will you accept? Sarah's finger hovered over decline. Then she heard the voice. Please, Sarah, please. It was David. She accepted the call. Thank you, he said, his voice hollow. Sarah, you have 30 seconds. I'm sorry. I know it means nothing, but I'm sorry. The boys, how are they? They're thriving. No thanks to you. I want to see them. Sarah's laugh was bitter. You lost that right when you dragged them to your wedding to watch you humiliate their mother. I've changed. No, David, you got caught. There's a difference with Darban. The man you knew is gone. Sarah thought about that, about the golden boy who had swept her off her feet with promises, who had turned those promises into weapons. The man I knew never existed. He was just a performance. This is who you always were. Sarah, your 30 seconds are up. She hung up. Her hands were steady, her heart rate normal. David Mitchell no longer had any power over her. That afternoon, Phoenix Technologies held its first board meeting. Sarah sat at the head of the table, surrounded by people who had believed in her when she could barely believe in herself. Our first client is requesting a meeting, Tommy announced. It's a big one, Fortune 500. Who? Tommy grinned. The IRS. They want us to build their new whistleblower tracking system. The room erupted in laughter and applause. The irony was delicious. As the meeting continued, Sarah's mind drifted to Marcus, serving 3 years for insider trading, to Victoria under house arrest, Her influencer career destroyed, raising Tyler's son alone after he fled the country. To Judge Hawkins, disbarred and facing her own trial, they had all thought her weak. They had all tried to break her. They had all failed. That evening, Sarah attended Jackson and Mason's basketball game. They had made the team, their camp fees paid, their uniforms new. As she sat in the bleachers, other parents nodded respectfully. Some had followed the trial, knew her story. "Mom," Mason called out after scoring, "did you see that?" "I saw everything, baby." Her phone buzzed, and another call from federal prison. David again. This time, she did not even look at the screen. She turned to the mother beside her, pointed at the court. "Number 12, that's my son Jackson. He's playing point guard." The woman smiled. "He's talented. You must be proud." Sarah watched her boys run, strong and confident, unburdened by their father's shadow. "I am. More than words can say." As the game ended, Phoenix Technologies' first advertisement played on the arena's screen. It was simple, just text over images of women working, building, rising. Every ending is a beginning. Every fall teaches us to fillet down. Phoenix Technologies rising together. The crowd applauded. Jackson and Mason ran to her, sweaty and triumphant. "We won, Mom." Sarah hugged them tight. "We did, baby. We absolutely did." 2 years had passed since the wedding disaster. Sarah's office at Phoenix Technologies overlooked Manhattan, a view she had once thought she would never see again from this height. The company had grown to 200 employees, all survivors of various systems that had failed them. Her desk held pictures of Jackson and Mason at 10, growing tall and confident. "Mrs. Mitchell?" Jennifer knocked. "There's someone here. Says it's urgent." Sarah looked up from her computer where she had been reviewing the company's latest contract, a $10 million government project. "Send them in." The door opened. Victoria Sterling walked in. She looked nothing like the Instagram goddess from the wedding. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced with a simple dress from Target. Her face, once perfectly contoured, showed exhaustion and defeat. In her arms was a toddler, maybe 18 months old, with Tyler's eyes, in David's timing, for chaos. "Sarah," Victoria began, then stopped. "I don't know why I'm here." Sarah gestured to a chair. Victoria sat, shifting the baby, who immediately started fussing. "His name is Lucas," Victoria said, "Tyler's son, though Tyler wouldn't know. He's been in Switzerland since the trial." "What do you need, Victoria?" Victoria laughed, bitter and broken. "What don't I need? I'm working at a grocery store, night shifts so my mom can watch Lucas. The government took everything. Every sponsored post, every gift, every dollar David gave me was apparently part of the money laundering." Sarah waited. She had learned patience in her darkest days. "I came to apologize," Victoria continued, "and to ask for a job." "You want to work for me?" "I know it's insane. I was horrible to you. That night Victoria stopped, tears falling. "I was so proud of my cruelty. I thought I was winning something." Lucas reached for Sarah's desk lamp. Victoria pulled him back, exhausted. "Why should I help you?" Sarah asked. Victoria met her eyes. "You shouldn't, but you're the only person in this city who understands what it's like to lose everything because of David Mitchell. And you're the only one who rebuilt." Sarah studied the woman who had once stood beside David, glowing with false pregnancy news, ready to destroy her. Now she saw a single mother, exhausted, desperate, broken by the same man who had tried to break her. "Can you type?" 70 words per minute. "Can you handle being managed by women you once would have mocked?" "I can handle anything that feeds my son." Sarah pulled out an application. "Fill this out. You start Monday, entry level, 60,000 a year plus benefits. The daycare on the third floor takes infants." Victoria's tears came harder now. "Wait, because Lucas deserves better than paying for his parents' choices. And because revenge would be easy, but rebuilding each other is revolutionary." As Victoria filled out paperwork, Sarah's phone rang. The federal prison again. This time she was curious. She accepted. "Sarah?" David's voice was different, older, broken. "What do you want?" "I'm getting out, good behavior. 3 years instead of 5. Sarah's blood chilled. And? I want to see my sons. No, I have rights. You have nothing. You signed away parental rights as part of the plea deal, remember? To avoid the longer sentence. Silence. Then I've changed. David, you called me from prison for 2 years. That's not change, that's obsession. I just want them to know. To know what? That their father chose money over them? That he used them as weapons? They know, David. They remember everything. Sarah, please. She thought about Jackson and Mason, how they had stopped asking about their father, how they had healed in his absence. If you come near my children, I'll file a restraining order. If you contact them, I'll have you arrested. Your rights to them ended the night that you dragged them into your sick game. Our children, my children, you made that choice. She hung up. Her hands shook slightly, but not from fear, from anger that he still thought he had any claim to the boys he had wounded. Victoria looked up from the application. He's getting out? Sarah nodded. I'm scared of him, Victoria admitted. He blames me for everything. The affair reveal, Tyler, the FBI, his letters from prison. He's been writing you? Victoria pulled out her phone, showing dozens of messages forwarded from various prison email systems. Sarah read a few. They were venomous, threatening. The words of a man whose narcissism had transformed into pure rage. We need to file a police report, Sarah said. They won't care. He hasn't explicitly threatened violence. Sarah thought about David, about his need for control, his inability to accept defeat. He would come for them all, she realized. Not physically, perhaps, but in whatever way he could still cause damage. Then we protect each other, Sarah said. That's what Phoenix does. We rise together. That night, Sarah held a family meeting with Jackson and Mason. Your father is getting out of prison, she said simply. Mason's face went pale. Jackson's jaw clenched. Will he come here? Mason asked. He might try, but he has no legal right to see you. Good, Jackson said. We don't want to see him. Sarah pulled them close. If he contacts you, if you see him anywhere, you tell me immediately. Mom, Mason said quietly, we're not scared of him anymore. No, Jackson shook his head. He's just a man who made bad choices. You taught us that. He's not a monster. He's just a failure who blamed everyone else. Sarah's heart swelled with pride and pain. Her boys had grown wise beyond their years, forged in fires they should never have faced. 3 weeks later, David Mitchell walked out of federal prison. The media was waiting. He looked older, thinner, his golden glow replaced with prison pallor. Mr. Mitchell, any comments? David looked directly into the cameras. I made mistakes. I'm ready to rebuild my life. Will you contact your ex-wife? His smile was cold. Sarah and I have unfinished business. Watching from her office, Sarah felt the old fear try to creep in. But then she looked around at Phoenix Technologies, at the empire built from ashes, at the women and men who had survived their own David Mitchells. He could try to come for her, but this time she would not face him alone. This time she was ready. The confrontation came on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after David's release. Sarah was walking Jackson and Mason to school, a routine she cherished when she saw him. David stood across from the school, his appearance altered by prison, but his posture still radiating the arrogance that had once made her feel small. Take your brother inside, Sarah told Jackson quietly. Tell security there's an issue. Jackson saw his father and instinctively stepped in front of Mason. Mom, duh, go now! The boys ran into the school. Sarah crossed the street, her heart steady, her spine straight. Hello, Sarah. David's voice was different, rougher, but still carrying that undertone of ownership. You're violating the restraining order by being within 500 feet of the boys' school. David smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. I'm on a public sidewalk. Leave now. I lost everything because of you, and Sarah actually laughed. You lost everything because you're a criminal who thought you were untouchable. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to take back everything. With what? Your assets are frozen. You're a convicted felon. No firm will hire you. David stepped closer. Sarah didn't step back. I know people. I know secrets. I know how to destroy you. You already tried that. How did it work out? His face twisted. This isn't over. Yes, David, it is. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing him the recording app. This conversation is being streamed to my security team and my lawyer. You've just violated your parole by threatening me. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. David's confidence cracked. You called them? The school did, the moment the boys reported you. See, David, you still think you're playing chess while everyone else plays checkers, but you're not even on the board anymore. Two police officers approached. David Mitchell? He turned, his shoulders sagging. You're under arrest for violating a restraining order and making terroristic threats. As they cuffed him, David looked back at Sarah. Why couldn't you just stay broken? Sarah stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear. Because broken things either stay broken or become stronger at the mended places. You broke me, David, but I mended with gold. They took him away. This time, according to her lawyer's call an hour later, he would serve the full remainder of his original sentence plus additional time. No early release. No good behavior. That afternoon, Phoenix Technologies held its quarterly meeting. Sarah stood before her employees, many of whom had been following the morning's drama on social media. David Mitchell was arrested today, she announced. He violated his restraining order and threatened me. Murmurs rippled through the room. I share this because many of you have your own David Mitchells. People who broke you, who still haunt you, who make you check over your shoulder. I want you to know that they only have the power we give them. Victoria stood up in the back, Lucas on her hip. In 6 months, she had risen from entry level to department coordinator, her work ethic fierce and desperate. Sarah's right, Victoria said. I was a David Mitchell once. I participated in cruelty because I thought it made me powerful. It just made me empty. Real power is what we're building here. Applause filled the room. Sarah noticed Charlotte wiping tears, Tommy nodding with pride, Jennifer taking notes for the company newsletter. Phoenix Technologies is announcing a new initiative, Sarah continued. Free legal services for any employee dealing with domestic abuse, custody battles, or stalking. We protect our own. The applause became thunderous. That evening, Sarah took the boys to their favorite restaurant to celebrate. They were laughing over pizza when Marcus Blake walked in. He had been released early, his sentence reduced for cooperation. He looked older, grayer, wearing a cheap suit and the expression of a man who had lost his way. Their eyes met across the restaurant. Sarah waited for the familiar spike of fear or anger. Instead, she felt nothing. Marcus started to approach, then stopped, seeing Jackson and Mason's protective postures, the way other diners were pulling out phones, recognizing him from the trial coverage. He turned and left without a word. You okay, Mom? Mason asked. Sarah smiled, real and warm. Perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect. 5 years later, Sarah stood in the New York Stock Exchange, preparing to ring the opening bell. Phoenix Technologies was going public, valued at $200 million. Jackson and Mason, now 15, stood beside her in suits that fit their growing frames. The camera crews were there, the financial news anchors ready with their commentary about the most unlikely success story in tech. Mrs. Mitchell, a reporter called out, David Mitchell died in prison last month. Any comment? Sarah had heard. A heart attack, alone in his cell, no one to mourn him except creditors still trying to recover money. I wish he had chosen differently, she said simply, for our children's sake. The bell rang, the sound echoing through the building and across the trading floor. Phoenix Technologies was officially public, its stock symbol RISE already climbing. As the day ended, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Empire State Building with her boys. The city spread below them like a circuit board of dreams and possibilities. Mom, Jackson said, do you ever think about what would have happened if Dad hadn't invited you to that wedding? Sarah considered it. Without that invitation, she might still be struggling, still fighting for scraps, still invisible. He thought he was setting a trap, she said. He ended up setting me free. Mason pulled out his phone, showing her something. It was their company's Instagram, the follower count at 3 million. The latest post was a photo of Sarah at the stock exchange, with a caption Victoria had written. 5 years ago, this woman stood in a ballroom full of people who thought she was nothing. Today, she employs 400 of us who were also once considered nothing. We rise together. The post had 200,000 likes in an hour. Sarah pulled her boys close, looking out at the city that had once seemed so cruel, now glittering with possibility. "What now, Mom?" Mason asked. Sarah smiled, thinking of the scholarship program they were launching, the survivors still out there who needed what Phoenix offered, the future spreading before them like an unmapped road. "Now we keep rising, and we bring everyone we can with us." As the sun set over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and promise, Sarah Mitchell stood tall, a woman who had been invited to her own humiliation and instead had claimed her triumph. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and she would never burn again. 10 years after, the auditorium at Harvard Business School was packed. Sarah Mitchell stood at the podium, her hair now touched with silver, her presence commanding the room without effort. Behind her, a presentation showed the Phoenix Technologies logo alongside statistics. 8,000 employees across 12 countries, 50 billion market cap, #1 on Fortune's best companies to work for, 3 years running. "The title of today's talk," Sarah began, "is The Gift of Rock Bottom." Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd of MBA students. 10 years ago, I received an invitation to my ex-husband's wedding. He wanted to humiliate me, to showcase my poverty against his wealth. That invitation was meant to be my final destruction. She clicked to the next slide, a photo from that night, her in the midnight blue gown, surrounded by people who thought they were witnessing her end. Instead, it became my beginning. A hand raised in the audience. "Mrs. Mitchell, David Mitchell died 5 years ago. Do you harbor any resentment?" Sarah considered the question. "David gave me 3 gifts. First, my sons. Second, the invitation that forced me to fight back. And third, he taught me that no one can break you without your permission." Another student asked, "What happened to the others from that night?" "Marcus Blake runs a small consulting firm in Ohio. He sent a letter of apology last year. I wished him well. Victoria Sterling Anderson is my chief operating officer. She's brilliant, ruthless in the best way, and has helped build Phoenix into what it is today. Her son Lucas is best friends with my boys." She clicked to the next slide. Phoenix Technologies' latest initiative, a global fund for women entrepreneurs emerging from divorce or domestic abuse. The fund stood at $1 billion. But the real story isn't about revenge or even redemption. It's about the 7,999 other employees who rose from their own ashes, the single mothers, the abuse survivors, the whistleblowers, the forgotten. "We built something from nothing because we refused to be nothing." As the presentation ended, the moderator asked one final question. "Mrs. Mitchell, if you could go back, would you change anything?" Sarah thought of the nights crying in that Queen's studio, the humiliation of food stamps, the fear of losing her children the moment she stood in that ballroom feeling 2 inches tall. Not a single thing. Every scar taught me strength. Every fall taught me flight. And that wedding invitation? I have it framed in my office right next to my Harvard MBA, my company's IPO certificate, and pictures of my sons at their high school graduation. The audience erupted in applause. As Sarah left the stage, her phone buzzed. Jackson, now at MIT studying engineering, had sent a photo from his robotics lab with a message. "Watching your speech online, Mom. We're so proud of you." Mason at Yale for pre-law had texted, "Mom, you're trending again. #Phoenix Mom, #rise from ashes." Sarah smiled, walking out into the Boston afternoon. A young woman approached, nervous and determined. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm nobody, just a student, but I wanted to say—" Sarah stopped her gently. "You're not nobody. Nobody is nobody. What's your name?" Emma Rodriguez. I'm here born on scholarship, first in my family to go to college. My mom cleaned houses to pay for my prep courses." "Your mother sounds like a phoenix," Sarah said. "Give her my card. We're always hiring warriors." As Emma walked away, clutching the business card like gold, Sarah's driver opened the car door. "Where to, Mrs. Mitchell?" "Home," she said. "My sons are coming for dinner." The car pulled away from Harvard, heading back to New York, to the penthouse she had bought not for its luxury, but for its view of the Queen's studio apartment where she had once lived. She kept that view as a reminder.